Hi there, this is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. You're about to watch a video live stream event that we held in August of 2020 with key players in the online MBA space. But before it starts, I just wanted to let you know that we have an incredible resource of information and analysis on online MBA programs, from rankings to profiles of individual schools to how much they cost to whether they require GMATs or GREs, and a wealth of other information to help you make a really good and smart decision about which program to pursue. If you want to avail yourself of all those resources, go to poetsandquants.com. In the nav bar, you'll see a little tab for online MBAs. Go there, or you can go direct to online/MBA/hub backspace at poetsandquants.com. We're looking forward to seeing you. Enjoy the video. Well, hi there. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. We are at Backstage, our online MBA admissions and program conference. This is our last webinar for the day, and the last in our 2 days, and it's kind of a special one. We have 4 great schools, 4 great online MBA programs, all of whom are partners with a company called 2U. Now, if you're not familiar with 2U, they're a publicly traded major company. It specializes in online learning. The beauty of a 2U partnership is that there's a very high level of quality on the program. The latest up-to-date technology. There are similarities in the structure of the programs. All of them involve live internet classes every week, along with in-person immersions. There are little tweaks here and there depending on how the schools decide to take advantage of the 2U platform. But I mean, the big takeaway for me is these are very high quality programs and how they're delivered, how they're put together, and basically the technology and the ease of use in the technology. So let me introduce our folks here. We have from UC Davis, the admissions manager, Kelly Bond, welcome. We have from Pepperdine University, admissions manager as well, Julie Herr. And we have from Rice in Houston, the executive director of recruiting and admissions, Janice Kennedy. And then from EGADE in Mexico, we have the admissions manager, Morgan McHenry. So welcome, everybody. So while the structures of your programs are similar, you bring a mission and values that are driven from the culture of your schools. So maybe we can start by just explaining how your program is different, what makes it stand out, and how that relates to your brand. Janice, want to start?
Sure. So I'd say from the Rice business perspective, we really want our online program to mirror on campus in its level of requirements and engagement and expertise, and I'd say intentionality. So we keep the classes 15 to 20 on a class. Granted, there could be more in the cohort. So we minimize the number of people per class because as we all are learning, you can only see so many boxes on the screen. That said, the design that all of our partners 2U uses is a very good studio quality delivery mechanism for an online class. So we offer the things at Rice, we're into the entrepreneurship. We believe in a tight-knit community. We believe in the engagement of an MBA versus a teach for the test. So to that end, that's where our faculty tries to manage Rice online.
Great. Kelly, what about UC Davis?
Yeah, so I would mirror that. I think that our technology platform is, unparalleled in a lot of ways. So the high quality education that you would expect to get on any of our campuses is still going to be there for our online students. So I would say that really sets us apart from other, online platforms that universities are delivering from. UC Davis specifically, I think, is really unique in the fact that we are a thought leader in some pretty unique areas. So we're intentionally integrating a lot of those just subject matters to our MBA program as well. So some might be familiar with the fact that UC Davis is really founded on agriculture. We're #1 worldwide in sustainability, renewable energy, biofuels, transportation. A lot of students are trying to integrate that into their education. We're #1 in agriculture, #1 for veterinary medicine. We're #1 for launching women into STEM careers, which I know is really valuable these days. And then my favorite, we are a global winemaking powerhouse. So winemaking is at the forefront of a lot of what students are interested in. We have several students who are within, enology and viticulture studies and kind of integrating that into their business career as well. So when you really look at what is making a student's passions that is coming into the program, I think that we feel it's not just one siloed subject, right? We want to make sure that we're integrating various subjects that the student is passionate about. So we decided to build in 8 concentrations that a student can concentrate in within their MBA. So when they leave, they're kind of differentiating themselves amongst other MBA graduates. So they can choose to focus on a variety of different subject areas, or they cannot focus at all and just kind of take a little bit of everything, which is totally fine. But we really want that personalized touch with our students. So that's something that's at the forefront of Davis community. Really just, can't speak highly enough about the people that are there. Our faculty is #4 in faculty quality. So our students are really there to get those relationships and really develop the time and connectivity with the faculty, because they're there to make sure that it's not a one-size-fits-all degree. It really is depending on what the student is there to learn and come out being a master, not just having those 3 letters next to your name. So I think that makes our students really prideful to be in that community.
And Janice, I'm also assuming that given where you are in Houston, that one potential concentration or focus in the program has to be energy, right?
Yes, we have 9 concentrations that we deploy in our on-campus program, but we lay those out for the online program too, saying take these classes if you want. It's not a concentration on the degree plan, but it's certainly a guidance. So we definitely like to offer those opportunities.
Right. Okay, over at Pepperdine, are there areas of focus or concentration in your online MBA program? And are there certain cultural attributes that Pepperdine brings to the program? I know you have a remarkable campus right on the
Absolutely.
ocean.
Right on the ocean.
Now, I hope you have some immersions on that campus.
The immersion, we do have one immersion. It is on our LA campus. However, during the immersion, you can take a trip over to Malibu and walk the campus. So absolutely something that you can do. And the majority of our students are in California, in the Southern California area. So go to games, go sit on campus. Even though you're online, you're still a Pepperdine student. So, and as I'm sure all of these programs are similar as well. But what really sets Pepperdine apart is we are very community and service oriented. I think the faculty members say it best. They have a heavy emphasis on practical application and knowledge and skills. So in order to build, when they are going through and building their courses, they have this acronym in mind. It's called it's REAL, and it's short for keeping it real. What that stands for is relational. They want to build a learning community where people are engaging. Even though it's online, you're still going to have that great connection between your faculty and also your students. It is experiential. You're going to have client-based learning with real companies in real time and apply that to your studies. Applied, same thing. The great opportunity, I think, for online is because mostly all of our students are full-time working professionals. They can go to class on that Tuesday night and then bring what they learned to work the next day on that Wednesday. And then finally, learner focused. So they want to put you first. It's flexible. You can pick if you want to go part-time or full-time. You can pick your concentrations. So it really leads with the student and wants to create that environment for them. Our faculty are through the roof. I cannot speak more highly of them. Not only are they, have that theoretical knowledge, they have real extensive industry experience. We have faculty members who are still sitting on boards, who are still consulting. So they have a lot to bring to the classes. That's not just going to be, that scholarly knowledge, like I said. And then finally, the flexibility. The great thing between our on-campus and our online program is that we understand that life happens. You are able to be an online student and then switch to on-campus and vice versa. So there's that flexibility between the modality because the curriculum is the exact same. So I would say those are the things that really set Pepperdine apart. And then as for concentrations, I know you started with that, John. So we have a general management, as I'm sure most programs do, a finance, marketing, digital innovation, and information systems, as well as leadership and managing organizational change.
And I think that is a very unusual feature, to be able to switch to an on-campus class during your program. I think there are very few online MBA options that offer that flexibility. So Morgan, you're at the #1 Latin American school, business school. How do you approach online learning?
Thank you for that. Yeah, we're not only the #1 business school in Latin America, but also the #1 MBA program within Latin America. So within EGADE, which is part of Tec de Monterrey, it's really a global focus. And the unique thing that we bring to this program is the online MBA program is delivered in English. So we currently have students from 11 different countries in the program. So when you're thinking about a truly global network, a lot of our students are working for transnational organizations, and they're immediately interacting with their fellow classmates and getting that C-level executive kind of perspective and being able to reach across to someone in a different organization, different industry, but really connecting on that. And our program was actually built just for the scenarios that we're going through today. As unfortunate as the pandemic is, our concentration is in digital transformation. So we have been preparing our students for this, and we are currently discussing this in the classroom and really talking about how do you become a disruptive leader and prepare for situations like this? Because as we've seen, there are industries that are doing really well that kind of took an accelerated approach to transforming. And then there's some other industries that are struggling a little bit that maybe kind of put digital transformation on the back burner. So we're finding a lot of our students are being hired and really sought out across different industries because of their expertise. And we do actually have 20,000 alumni from EGADE alone across 5 different continents and 14 different centers across the globe. So the global perspective, I think, is something that really puts EGADE Business School apart.
Right. Generally, online MBA programs pull from within a 250-mile radius of campus. It's largely because of brand identity, the numbers of alumni that are typically in a given region for a school. It's often said that geography is destiny, but I'm thinking that in terms of your class profile in Monterey, it's going to be much more international and many, many more people from different Latin American countries. Is that right?
You are so right. And within the United States as well.
Right.
It is a truly, truly global program. Like I said, we have 14 different centers for Tec de Monterrey across the world. So our students have access to those alumni networks. In addition, Mexico is a huge country, but there's over 20 centers for Tec de Monterrey within Mexico. And then of course the centers outside of Mexico. So we do see a high population of Mexican students, as all universities tend to have a geographic bias, but our global perspective and the access you get through the alumni network is absolutely astounding.
Give us a sense of, the average age, average years of work experience a student brings to the program, male gender, female gender split, and in fact, how many students are outside of Mexico in your program in a typical cohort?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as we know across, I think the study done in 2019, about 30% of typical MBA cohorts were made up of women, and we do fall across like industry trend lines. We have actually found that there has been kind of an increased trend in our online program in accessibility for women. and being able to stay working and have access to the online MBA program. So of course, we love that. In regards to kind of the other network and makeup of our classes, we have a requirement of a minimum of 3 years of work experience prior to applying to the program, but we find on average our students have 10. In terms of kind of the other makeups and the class sizes and things like that, very small, intimate classes, no more than 20 students. So we do have that high interaction across international borders within our program.
Great. What does the class profile look like at Rice?
So for our online, the funny thing, you talked about geography being king. What's really interesting is when you get someone who knew Rice or lived in Texas but has moved away, they find themselves happy to be able to have the online option. So maybe it is still king. I don't know.
Yes.
We're trying to grow the women's side of the cohort. We have a lot of initiatives to do that. Right now we're still at like a 75% male, but we've grown it significantly on campus, and we're certainly working to do that for our online program as well. We're finding that we have a lot more work experience for the online. I don't know if it's the makeup of the type of people we've been bringing in, but we usually require 2. But for this last cohort, I think we have like 8 years of experience. So it's an interesting mix. I love that it's about where they are sometimes. So it may not be in terms of I want to be online, but I need to be able to sign on from Singapore when I'm traveling here or from there. And they have this little competition of how many places they signed on from. So that's an interesting piece of it. But we have about 50% are in the Houston area. So we draw from here just like we do on campus. So the expectation is that it's just as good, just as strong as a Rice MBA.
Right. And I'm thinking UC Davis must draw very heavily from the entire Bay Area.
We do, yes, we definitely do. So we launched just last year, so we're about to go into our 5th cohort. So we're very regionally brand strong in that area, but it is very interesting to see cohort after cohort how that continues to expand and how exciting it is to start to get students, from coast to coast, and starting to get international students that hear about the program and enroll in the program. So we've seen that expand since we launched. We were ranked in diversity and internationalization. So UC Davis as a whole really prides itself on having that global perspective on business and on research in various areas. So it's something that we're continuing to strive for growing. We're very proud that in our first 5 cohorts, we have 49% male and 49% female. Wow. So neck and neck there. I don't know if it's the viticulture or what, but it's working well. So we, as I mentioned, we're very strong with the other
2%.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just close.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yes. So my math does line up. I'm just missing the other 2 there. We'll have to see where they fall. But our focus on women in STEM is something that we're very proud of, and women often come to be able to focus on that and really be hand in hand with faculty who are in research and practitioners within their areas. So something that's really exciting. Our average age of student is about 34. It ranges though from 22 to 59. So we expect that students come in with a little bit of experience under their belt, but sometimes they don't. And sometimes students have several decades of experience, and it's really just people bringing different things to the table, a diversity of thought, if you will, in the classroom. And we are very intentional about building cohorts that can learn from each other. I think that that's something people don't think about in the online atmosphere, is you're able to connect with people who are not just geographically around you and not just experiencing the same things you are. I mean, think about how different, a concept is received if you're in LA versus New York City. So it's really cool to see how that, makeup of a cohort can impact their experience. Some other just class profile statistics. I mean, 14% of our students are military affiliated. We definitely are very military friendly. And we have a pretty wide representation of industries. Obviously, our proximity to Silicon Valley attracts a lot of, hard and software tech individuals, but we also see a lot of healthcare, agriculture, of course, hospitality, food and beverage. So kind of a little bit all over the map there. And then we're also 32% made up of underrepresented minorities. So very excited to continue to grow that.
That's great. And I would imagine that at Pepperdine, you're probably pretty close to gender parity as well, right?
We are at 43%. So just a little,
good.
Yes, but
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, something that we also are really proud of and continuing to grow cohort over cohort. The average age that we have seen is around 33 years old. The average years of experience is 9 currently. Our average undergraduate GPA is 3.1. And as I'm sure as most MBA programs, you have people from a wide variety of industries, but our top 3 that we consistently see is aerospace, financial services, and business services and consulting. So that is the makeup of Pepperdine.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And this is why I say, to some degree, geography is destiny, even above and beyond just where people come from. It's what kind of industry they tend to work in. That gets flowed into the programs, obviously. Now, let's say I had the chance to interview your students, and I asked them a simple question: name the 3 things about the program. Could be 3 things of anything. Could be part of the experience, could be about your classmates, could be about your professors, could be about the immersions, the format of the program, anything at all. The 3 highlights, the things that resonated most for them. What would they tell me? Morgan?
Great question. I think with our students with EGADE, the number one thing that they're looking for, and I think everybody looking for an MBA program, is kind of the networking you're going to be able to get through an MBA program. Super important when you're doing your research.
And that's really interesting, because I know that probably the number one misgiving that people have who are exploring the online environment is I have to sacrifice the network.
Yeah, and that's a very good misunderstanding. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yes.
Because what we find with our online students is there's actually increased networking, because you're getting out of your immediate geographical areas we've been kind of talking about, and really being able to expand. So within our online classroom, we're seeing the increases I talked about before with transnational students, really with that global diversity. So we also have 1 million alumni worldwide from tech. There's centers for excellence that our students can access. We have a U week, which is an update week. I think my internet froze. Am I with you?
I can hear you though.
Okay, fantastic. So we have a U week, update week, where we actually invite all of our alumni to come back, and we give kind of a 2-day update that all students have accessibility to. So any of the networks and expansive kind of networking and alumni centers that we've built, all of our online students have access to. So that's number one. Number two is the ranking and accreditation is very important for MBA programs. You need to know that you're going to be attending a recognized university, just like all the other universities I have the pleasure of sharing the panel with today, all highly ranked and regarded universities. With tech and with EGADE specifically, we have a Triple Crown accreditation, which is important for our international students. It's outside of just US specific, but only 1% of business schools worldwide have that.
Right.
And then of course, the accessibility to our faculty members. 50% of our faculty are PhD holders, and the other 50% really are top industry leaders. And to maintain our Triple Crown accreditation, we have to have that mix. It's very rigid. So the one-on-one kind of mentoring and access that you get to your faculty members as a student through the online MBA program is consistently something else that our students talk about.
Great. Janice, how about your students? How would they answer that question?
Well, I alluded to the flexibility as they compete for all the different locations that they signed on. So we hear that quite a bit. I'm going to digress for a second and say, when you think about what on-campus classes are going through right now, it really is live streaming if it's a hybrid model. So we hear a lot about the technology and it feels real. I mean, it's completely different when it's done in a studio and you're in groups and you really can network and create those projects when it's designed to support that. So I think there's been this delighted surprise that they're not just, you know, watching a TV to learn something and then going to take a test, but that it is an engagement. And then the last thing I'll say is our alumni, while we don't have as many as Morgan does, we're small and mighty. I think that with the Rice alumni, because there's not as many, we're a smaller school, everyone thinks they have to answer. They have to do their part. So you reach out to a Rice alumni and you say, I'm Rice, and that's it. What do you need? What can I do? So I think it's tangible, it's real, and I think it's very high quality. And I'm not sure online has always had that reputation.
True, true. I would also think a highlight for all of your programs are the immersion opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Are you taking people away from Houston for any of them?
We do. We have a global field experience, and then we have several intensive learning experiences on campus. They also have access to all of the clubs and all the programs on campus. They're a Rice student as far as we see it. Now, interestingly, travel's an issue with some of the global field experiences. And this is where I think Rice was very intentional about returning to the same locations of these emerging markets and building deep relationships with both the community and the companies that are in those markets. So I find that our global field team is really creating some very interesting, albeit remote, same exchanges of that global experience, to the degree where, you know, we're going to teach you, we're going to have a Peru chef on to teach you how they cook there. And then Chevron's going to have a project for us to do. I mean, we just did a project remotely with one of our global field experiences with Expedia. So, I mean, it's really intentional because we've had those relationships. So we may not, you know, go to Paris and Italy, but because we go to those places, we have a rich relationship with them. And I think that has not been the letdown that I presumed everyone thought it would be when travel's banned for a while.
Yes, great. And Kelly, the 3 things that would most resonate with your first cohort that's been through the program.
Yeah, again, I can't emphasize enough how many students tell us that the people just make it all for them. So I think a lot of people would say, you know, our faculty is really in touch. It's really, you know, individualized, but I was surprised to see just how in touch they were and how, you know, willing they were to be flexible to make sure a student's experience was really unique to them. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty unique that they're willing to continue to grow with the student and make sure that they're getting all of those touch points that they're interested in. So if somebody, you know, wants to integrate a couple of areas that are seemingly complete opposite, they will, you know, help the student make sure that they can get in touch with the right people and do so if it's not within the Graduate School of Management already. So I would say the unique individualized touch of our people and our faculty. Alongside that same vein of people, students also say that it just feels like a very inclusive and judgment-free zone, which I think is not always synonymous with MBA programs or the, you know, business spectrum, that sometimes you can feel like an imposter in the classroom. And so it's really nice that students can come in and feel like if they're not an expert in a certain area, that is all right. And it's fine to come in with areas of opportunity that others can lean in and help you with. And then you're an expert in others as well. So it's really cool that there's that community of judgment-free zone, is what one student called it. And I think that really allows students just kind of the freedom to learn more and soak more in when they feel like they are in that kind of community. So that kind of just integrates into the culture of Davis as a whole. Like I said before, we have the benefit of being accessible to Silicon Valley and the Bay Area. The location is wonderful, right outside of Napa as well. So the proximity really lends itself to a wide network. However, we do consider it to be a small and individualized sort of feel. So everyone's very interconnected. Again, the faculty, they are connected with each other, and a lot of the curriculum is built together. So I think that's really felt by our students in that way, and just kind of drives home the culture of Davis. Even though it is online, I'm sure everyone else here would say it's surprising to students how much the culture shines through, even in an online program. And it's very intentional and it's very interwoven in so many different ways, but you truly feel like you're a Davis student the entire time. It's not just, you know, an online platform that you log into and do chat rooms or anything. You're really immersed in everything that it has to offer. And then lastly, I would just say that Janice mentioned just the flexibility of the online platform. I always hear as well that it's wonderful that students don't feel like they have to check out of being a student and then be a professional and then be a family member. It's really designed so that people can enjoy all of those things, and all of those things are encouraged and supported. And we hope that our students have hobbies outside of just school and work, but they can take what they're learning in the classroom and apply that to work and really see how it worked out for them, and then bring it back into the classroom and reflect on it with their classmates. So I think that integration of what you're learning and then actual application is both convenient for the student, but also really, really impacting their learning and what they're getting out of the program.
Okay, if I were a student in your program, the number one thing that would resonate with me, an immersion in wine country.
Yes.
Right? I think so too. I mean, I didn't want to mention it again, but we do have immersions in Napa.
My education.
Yeah. Sign us up.
Yes. We had to, we're making the agenda. We're making the agenda for the Napa residential, and we had to limit how many times we mentioned, you know, tastings and wine sampling and
Now at Pepperdine, other than that visit to the Malibu campus,
Absolutely.
what are the things that really resonate?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that stands out is our education to business initiative. So as I was talking about the real, that's the E part of this experiential. We partner up with, you know, startups to Fortune 500 companies and give that real world, give students the perspective of what are the challenges that these corporations are facing. What are they doing to go about it? And right now is a better time, you know, more than ever. Everyone's going through changes. So we really have that client-based learning, which is part of our curriculum right from the beginning. So I think that is one of the pillars that gets people very excited about our MBA program, is how much you're going to be looking at outside corporations and getting that real world experience and perspective, and then being able to, we even had some students, it has turned into like a part-time consultative role for them to continue to work on with them for a little bit. So the education and business initiative, I would say, gets most people extremely excited about our MBA program.
That's great.
And then, yeah, and then I think the other two go pretty hand in hand, and definitely are things that my colleagues have said, but the faculty, they don't just kind of walk the walk and say, yeah, we're here for you. The majority of the faculty members give out their cell phone numbers. They are there to prep them for interviews. I've heard of multiple late night texts of, you know, freaking out and, hey, I have this thing going on, like, do you mind if I miss? And them just being very understanding. So I think people are really surprised by just how close they can, you know, be and how close they are to their faculty members. And then the last thing, I think people are always wanting to compare online MBA programs and on-campus programs, but with Pepperdine, they have more similarities than differences, like the resources, the alumni network, community building, different social groups, being able to come to campus whenever you want, as I'm sure everyone can. But I find that really fascinating that people like to always say, what's different about it? And it's really not different. It's more just suited better for their life. Whether it's they don't live close to campus or their life is very demanding with their family, their job, they just need one, you know, thing out of the equation, and whether that be moving or commuting to campus, that is, you know, the one hurdle that's taken out. So I find that those are the three things that I think our students would say is it's online, but it's still Pepperdine. Like, you still really feel that sense of community.
And generally, for all these programs, it's a 24-month program that can be stretched a little bit longer, given your professional and personal responsibilities. And generally, you can expect to spend 15 to 20 hours a week in terms of what your time commitment should be in the program, right? Yeah, everybody's nodding their heads. You know, we've had a lot of really interesting questions throughout the day, and I want to just go there because they open the door to lots of other really interesting discussions. One question, and it's relevant given what we're going through today with the pandemic, but I think I know the answer, and the answer is no. But let me explain what the question is. Given current events with traditional programs going online, will these online MBA programs combine students from the full-time MBA programs or evening programs because they're online now? And I'm thinking no, because one thing that's important here is the small size of your classes, which largely number up to only 20 people, which actually enhances the networking opportunities and the bonding in the group. The other thing is the cohort nature of the program to allow those bonds to be really deep and meaningful. Is that correct? Yeah, okay, that's what
I would be happy to chime in here too. We recently, and I know Julie mentioned this as well, but we're recently exploring the idea of students cross-registering. So they actually would have the opportunity to register in the future for an online delivered program or vice versa. So it may not be, overhauling the entire class onto online, but they are trying to kind of mix the two to make it a little bit more flexible for people. And I mean, I would say online education is not new. It's not new for us. So a lot of people are unfortunately having to jump on to the digital delivery due to everything happening right now. So I would say, especially, we're in a great position to have done it before and have a history of success with it. So it's a little bit easier for us to, open up more sections. We still want them to be small class sizes, but we can help, by opening more sections. We're still delivering the same curriculum that they would find on campus, the same faculty. So a lot of times it's a little bit more, convenient or easier for us to offer that to our campus counterparts. And I think that is, it's a great collaboration in that sense that students can still get the high quality education, even though unfortunately they can no longer go on campus.
Right. Okay.
Can I just add one other thing for Rice? Because we want people to have options, that's why we have online and why we have on campus. We have 4 starts for our online program and only 1 start a year for on campus. So the quadmester doesn't line up with the semester, but that's so it will work differently for anyone who needs it. So again, the intentionality makes it not, we wouldn't weave it back together easily.
Right, that's good. Here's a question from a more senior manager who has 20 plus years of experience. And this manager wants to know what impact possibly could an online MBA have on his career with 20 plus years of experience. Who wants to take that?
I would love to. That's something that we see pretty typically with our profile of students. And it all comes down to, what are you looking to do within your career? Are you looking to stay within the industry? Are you looking to move to something different? Within our program and within EGADE, something we really excel at is, again, looking at developing entrepreneurs. And that means both intra or entrepreneurship. And a lot of times people will walk into an MBA program and think they have one set direction. You start exploring different ideas, you may change your mind, you may end up starting a whole different business. So that's the beautiful part of an MBA program, is it can just blow your mind open to the possibilities. So in terms of what you're looking to do, I think anybody possibly considering an MBA program is looking to push themselves further, regardless of where you are in your career. You don't want to stay stuck. And it's hard. You can research online, you can have some magazines and online things you subscribe to, but nothing's going to compare to actually working through cases with companies, getting outside your immediate sphere of influence and working with a completely different industry. working with your colleagues and pushing with that. So there's a lot of things that you can learn. Like I said, our class profiles average 10 years. We do often see that same kind of profile coming to our program.
Right. I mean, basically, it can make you a more effective leader. Bottom line, you would develop even more self-confidence than you may already have. You're going to meet really interesting people. And as you said, you're going to find out things in other industries that you can apply in your own, that you may never have imagined could be applicable to your own situation. Now, here's an interesting question. I mean, it may be obvious on some level, but there are a lot of people who will be considering an evening part-time program that's in person versus an online MBA program that, of course, is part-time. What are the advantages that a top online program might have over slogging it through, going 2 nights a week after work to a campus when you can go to a campus? Janice, you want to take that?
Sure. So, I mean, some people say on campus is right for me. Some people say online is right for me. I think the most important thing and the reason we all have different delivery models is because everybody's different. So
Yeah.
we spend a lot of time saying, when do you learn best? When do you think you're free? Are you exhausted at the end of the day? You know, what are you a morning person? What would that look like? So I think when you really consult with an individual and find out what they're about, you can find the right mode for them. And it could be either for anyone. And we spend a lot of time talking through that with them because it is, especially now with hybrid, it's a little even more confusing. So we want to go, okay, this is the world today. This is where we're headed. But what works for you, your life, your career, your family? I think she referred to that earlier about, you know, what works in my lifestyle. So the async opportunities versus the number of hours to be there, obviously the commute. The other thing I'd say about that is the people, and this goes back to your 20-year person too, it's so broad online. It's not the same people who live in the same area, coming the same highway to get to the same school. This is people in all different industries, companies, whatever. And the age range that these teams come together, and it's just fruitful because it's so disparate. It's not, okay, let's talk about, you know, what happened on 410 when I was trying to get here or something in the traffic. So I just think that each one has its spot for everyone.
Yeah, that's really good. No commute. The other thing, frankly, is cohorts. You know, in evening MBA programs, you tend to see different students in every class because they're not always taken together as a cohort in many evening MBA programs, right?
Ours is cohort based for all of them. So,
and that's a unique feature of your program then, because in many schools, you know, you just go and who's there, who shows up. It's not a carefully designed cohort of learners.
mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, if you're a road warrior, okay, if we're in more normal times when the demands of business make you have to travel a lot, and some people travel, you know, a week or two every single month, you can do an online MBA program and not have it disrupted. That's not possible with a traditional part-time MBA program, right? Here's an interesting thing, and this goes back a little bit to what Morgan was saying about the networking opportunities in an online MBA program. Now, on-campus programs often pitch the in-person experience as being invaluable for networking. How does your online program foster relationships between students? Do you find that students leave the program with relationships that help them later on in their careers? A great question. Who wants to take that one?
You can go.
Yeah, good.
Great. Well, community, again, I'll probably say it for every answer, but how we've done this online is we've started off from when they're in the application process to build that community to them throughout the entire program. So when everyone is admitted, we have an admitted student webinar to get them in front of each other, to see faculty and program chairs, to meet student ambassadors. So we're already creating that sort of camaraderie, then kind of passing it on to our student success advisors. Before even the start of classes, they host a social hour where they want everyone to get together, hey, who's nervous? Anyone, what do you guys have questions about? What can I help with? Type of interaction. And this is all before classes even start. And then in normal time, the immersion is, it still is, the third week of class. So you're getting to know each other and doing that intensive weekend right off the bat. So those are just the things that you're doing interacting wise, but we also have social groups. You can post on the board and connect with other students in every area. We have this platform called Pep Connect, and it's kind of a hybrid between LinkedIn and then also our alumni site. So alumni go on there, they select if they want to be a mentor, then current or new students go on and, hey, create this profile, reach out to people, maybe it's their location, maybe it's their industry. So no matter, as I've said it before, I'm sure all of you will say it too, we've really created and tried to foster as much of a community as possible. And I think throughout the application process to even in the program, these students create such great relationships with each other just because of all of this.
And I have found that in online MBA programs, students self-organize. They'll get together for coffee, they'll get together for dinners, group dinners and things like this. So even though they may not be present all the time together, they do make efforts to organize themselves in groups and actually see each other outside the virtual classroom. And in fact, that would be consistent with the kind of people who are attracted to MBA programs. These are people who are smart, who are ambitious, who want to improve themselves, who tend to be social animals. Yes, you can be an introvert and go, it's okay. But I think you'll find a lot of people that love people and they want to be with people, and that really enhances the networking as well. Here's another question. I like this question. Can you talk about the split between individual and group or team work in an online MBA program? Kelly, you want to take that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And it kind of relates to what you were just saying. Our students love people. We love our students loving people. So we are very team oriented with a lot of our subject matter. So we do integrate team projects into a lot of what we're doing. So it's really important to us that students are interested in being collaborative, that they, maybe they have a leadership role, but they're okay not always being the leader. I think there's a lot to learn from being in a group dynamic in any class that you're in. So we do integrate that, as Julie was mentioning as well. During our residential, we usually have a team project. So they're really diving in with that group throughout the weekend. You're really able to learn from the group dynamic and to kind of create those long-lasting relationships. Our capstone the foundation of our capstone is all a group project as well, where they are doing a simulation of a recently launched startup, and they have to be the executive team making various decisions. So I think, the scope of business is founded on teamwork. So I think that is very integrated into what we're doing. And I think that when you're on an online platform, it's also just super important to have those touch points outside of just the classroom. So our students are meeting in those teams whenever they want to throughout the week, utilizing the platform to have those study sessions or to split up the work. I think to your earlier point about people doing, an evening class, you don't want to stay around at the end of the night when you're doing an evening class on campus. So I often find that students feel a little bit more connected because they're able to connect in this way in a digital manner, and they have a little bit more casual relationship with people than they even think is going to happen. So it's really cool to see how that expands. But I would say there's, obviously still a great mix of individualized work where you're really going to dive in and understand yourself as a learner, understand the areas that you want to get better in or you feel specifically passionate about. But group work is definitely very important to us.
So I'm going to guess that group work might account for 25% of the learning in an online MBA program. And how far off am I? Anybody?
I mean, anyone else can do this. I'd almost say more.
More, maybe a third.
It depends on the professor. Some professors believe I teach
Yes,
them
yes.
in this way, and it will be 80% in that class. And then it's varied for sure. I think it is more than 25% as well, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something to keep in mind. You know, some people equate what's going on regular campuses with online courses. That is not true. What's going on with remote instruction right now, in this abrupt shift from the physical classroom to the virtual world, is professors are doing the best they can to take an existing residential course and deliver it to you on Zoom. That is not what an online course is. And I come to this because I think a lot of group work is placed into an online course for the purposes of keeping people engaged. So in almost every live classroom session, there'll be breakouts where you're going to work with individual groups on an assignment of one kind or another, and then report back to the class. That's going to happen more often in an online environment than it might happen even in a residential program when it is residential, or certainly a residential program when it's simply been transformed onto Zoom in this interim period during the pandemic. Now, here's something that everybody's interested in, and it's about the career outcomes of online MBA programs. There is some conventional belief that an online MBA is best for the person who wants to accelerate his or her career in the company or industry they're already in, and that it's less suited for those who want to pivot and do a career switch. So this person is asking, what about the career change statistics for online MBA participants? Can you change your career? Can you change your industry? Can you change your discipline? Can you change your geography? Can you do the triple jump and do all three at once? Morgan?
I think it's arguably easier because you're having immediate access to people in other industries and you're getting their insight perspective. I mean, what better way than just trying to cold call, seek out and feel out a different industry than really hearing from the day-to-day of your classmates? So that intimate connection that you get within the online classroom itself is immediately your first touch point that you're getting. In addition, you know, with EGADE, we have a corporate board of advisors that are professionals from different industries, and they're constantly in touch with their industries. They're, you know, informing what we're doing within the curriculum to make sure that we're preparing our students to be hired within different industries, especially with our concentration in digital transformation. That's something that, as we all know, is across all industries at this point. It doesn't matter what you're in, as long as if it can go online, they're trying to make it happen. So I think you'll see in a lot of our programs, we're, you know, trying to do that, trying to adapt, but that's been the core kind of essence with the online MBA program. And what we've looked at from the beginning is, how do you really prepare a leader to be a digital disruptor regardless of whatever industry?
Right. I mean, yes, you can switch your careers. I think that going into the program, you need to know what you want. You need to have some direction so you can work with the coaches and with some of your professors in the career management staff to help make that a reality. You don't want to come to the conclusion like the last semester you're in your online MBA program that you're going to make a big switch of some kind. Now, we've done a lot of survey work with online MBA graduates, and we have found that 30% were able to switch jobs as a direct result of the degree that they earned. We found that 53% had a pay raise that they attributed directly to their online MBA program. And we found that 37%, yes, no, sorry, 60% got a promotion as a direct result of their online MBA programs. Promotions, increased responsibility, pay raises, and the greater self-confidence that you bring to your job are really the most immediate ROI attributes of an online MBA program, I think. All of you agree?
Yeah, I think there was a point in time where people said that any evening or weekend program was the same. You had to grow in your company, you couldn't pivot. Let's be honest, the economy's a little crazy right now. So there's a lot more consideration of what do I do, what do I want to do, how will this transformation of learning and experiential 2 years help guide me to that end? So I think it's true. And yes, you can do it. Is it easy? No. Is it easy anytime? Not really. Yes, it's formulated very clearly in the full-time program on campus where you meet all these areas of requirement. But when people are finding jobs on their own, when they have a job, it's the same thing. So this is about the investment in yourself, the discovery, the learning from your new peers, your new network, networking with them, and then making that pivot if that's what's right for you.
Great. Now, lightning round to finish up. Can each of you give me 3 words that best describe your program or your online MBA experience? Dildy?
Ooh, on the spot. All right, community. I will say learner focused, and also Malibu's beautiful, so beautiful.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, Kelly, your 3 words that describe the program and the experience.
Oh, I would say highly intentional, dynamic, and wine. I should probably mention wine, right? Since I only have 3.
Sure, let's go with wine. I like wine. Janice, your 3.
I was going to say intentional, but you said that, so I'll say individual. And then I would say community or relationships. I'm trying to pick new words, but I think they all have the same thing. And committed to excellence.
Great. Morgan?
So we actually have 3 core values at EGADE Business School. So
Sustainability,
very easy for me.
Globalness, and
Close. It's sustainability, innovation, and global vision.
right. Oh, good. And I will say, you know, in terms of innovation, that was the one word I was looking for, because these are very dynamic programs, because they are, to many, you know, in much a way customized.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be able to get what you really need and what you really want. So if you want to know how data analytics can be used for effective decision making in your company, and you haven't even approached that topic, you're going to learn that in an online MBA program. Mm-hmm. If you want to know how artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to change business over the next 10 years, you're going to get a really good glimpse of that in a good MBA program, and so on and so forth. These programs are evolving and they're changing. To each one of these schools, they are very important and big investments that these schools are very much dedicated to. So you know you're going to get a lot of attention, and you know the faculty is going to bring their best game to the program. So there you go. Hey, Morgan at EGADE, Janice at Rice, Kelly at UC Davis, and Dilly at Pepperdine. Thank you so much for joining us and for your perspectives. I really enjoyed it, enjoyed meeting all of you. I hope you enjoyed the session as well. I want to just talk a little bit about what happens now. We're going to have some breakout rooms, and you're going to be able to meet any one of our panelists and ask any questions you might have. The other important takeaway is this. If you're unable to attend the live event, that's perfectly okay. It's been recorded. It will be produced. We will do an edited transcript of it. It will be on our website. It will be on YouTube. So it will be out there in the internet forever. So, you know, I hope all of you made a really good show of it, because if not, you're going to be embarrassed forever. Anyway, hey, thank you so much. Stay safe and healthy. And really, thank you for participating. We really appreciated it. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants, backstage at our online admissions and program conference. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. I learned a lot. And I think you'll learn a lot more by going in there and checking out the transcripts and the videos over the next week as we post them up and socialize them on social media. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Take care.